Well, you've been making your brags around town that you've been a lover, my man. But the man I love, when he picks up trash, he puts it in a garbage can.
Hi, thanks so much for joining me back on Talkin' Trashy. Today I have my good friend Jack Johnson back.
Hi.
Oh, Jack. It has been too long, dude.
It's been a long
a
time.
year since
Yeah.
we have been on the set together.
That's true.
And I know that you have been a busy beaver and still working in the world of waste.
Yeah.
But our audience at
I wondered what to call it. Now I do.
the world of waste,
The
or
world of
being
waste.
a beaver in the waste world.
Both
An
are
honor.
images I prefer
Busy beaver,
not
busy
to have.
beaver. So I have been plugging away with the city of Aspen, but you have expanded your reach beyond just Aspen and Pickens County.
Yep.
And I would love for you to talk a little bit about your new endeavor.
Well, I started a nonprofit. It's called Aspen Zero Impact, and its mission is to advocate for sustainability in the Roaring Fork Valley and beyond, if was ever asked to do so. But to do it through innovative waste diversion programs and source reduction and resource recovery, and really try to be an advocate for that, because I'm very passionate about it.
And I know you have already started some stuff here in Aspen. You've been talking to people in Carbondale. You've been talking to people at the state level, as far as I know, all under the name of Aspen Zero Impact.
Yep. And I have a website, and it'll be on the lower third of, it's probably under me right now.
Just right here, we're in the magic of television, where it says Jack.Johnson at aspenzeroimpact.org.
That's correct.
See, look at me, I'm paying attention. I remember webpage. And Zero Impact, I think the Aspen piece is self-explanatory.
Right. Well,
the
Zero Impact is my
It's
riff
zero.
on
Okay.
zero waste, which is
Gotcha.
a philosophy in the waste diversion movement. It's promoting the reuse and recycling, composting, conservation, but sort of looking at the entire life cycle of products and the way in which we interact with our economy and the waste impacts associated with that, so that you're not looking at just the purchase of an item, but the manufacture, the packaging, and ultimately the end life or the end of life of a particular object that you purchased.
And you're not alone. You did not invent this concept.
I didn't?
No.
Well, I knew I wasn't getting the royalties.
There's a number of local, international, national organizations all devoted to the idea of zero waste.
True.
And I
There's even a new certification program from the Green Building Council called True Advisor, which sort of sets up an educational program for businesses about how they can go to zero waste.
Oh, that's fantastic, because I think that's a big question. Obviously, I brought you in today, as you can see from our set. We're going to dive a little deeper into the specifics of single stream recycling
Right.
and how that factors in. That's
Which is
a
an
piece
important
of zero
part
waste.
of zero waste, but it isn't the entirety
Right.
of zero waste.
Right.
Waste isn't, it's really more of a lifestyle shift and an economic, cultural shift that the country is going to have to get involved in if we're not going to drown in the waste that we produce.
When you say drown in the waste you produce, it brings to mind the Washington Post article that I came across a couple weeks ago, and several of our avid followers sent it to me via email. It's on Facebook,
Right.
talking about the global waste problem. And there were some really alarming images and figures that came out of that.
Well, the biggest figure that came out of it is that as a planet, we are producing 3.5 million tons of waste a day. And in the Roaring Fork Valley, we struggle with that. The life of our landfill has been radically diminished because of construction and demolition debris mainly, which is our real problem. But other areas of the world don't struggle with that, but they have their own particular issues. But we're all going to have to do something about it. And,
Right.
and it's mainly, you know, we say the planet is making 3.5 million tons a day, but it's really developing, I mean, it's developed Western countries that
Right.
are doing that. The pygmies in the Amazon are, you know.
I'm not doing that.
No, they know how to compost.
But unfortunately, something that we export along with our cell phones and internet access, which are all great things that up the quality of life for people in the developed world.
Provide jobs.
Wonderful. But we also send this kind of thing over there as well, and they don't
And into our
necessarily
oceans.
have robust recycling programs. They don't have sanitary landfills. I mean, heck, Pickett County doesn't even have a sanitary landfill. We have a landfill, and it's certainly
Clean.
managed to the best of our technical capabilities, but it wasn't built with
A liner.
a liner, so it doesn't protect the water and the air the way it could if we were to build it today.
Not
we
that
would
there's
build
anything
it.
to worry about.
No, they do a fantastic
Perfectly
job.
fine, but it's not, doesn't meet the technical definition.
We
of-
would do it so differently if
Right.
we were to build it today. And it costs us a lot of money to compensate for how we didn't do it right back in the 60s. And we spend that money, and all the folks out at the landfill work really hard to make sure that there's nothing escaping into
Right.
the water and the air. But
the life of that landfill
Yeah.
is almost up.
It's getting-
We've gone from 26 years of life 5 years ago, an anticipated lifespan,
Right.
to 8 years of anticipated lifespan today. So we've used up 17 years or so in the span of 5 years. Now that's complicated, and you could ask me about it. I'd be happy to answer that in more depth, but it's a big problem.
it is. And maybe we'll come back and do a show on that. But what I
Let's.
thought, now that we've sort of set the tone for gloom and doom and scare tactics, now that
Let's
people
go to
are at
local
home in
news, which
tears,
is good.
we have single stream. Every hauler in the Roaring Fork Valley, every hauler in Aspen is providing single stream recycling.
Which is a real feat, because it's been 5 years, I believe, since we first started the single stream experience.
Yes.
So that we got all 7 haulers on board with that is fabulous and great. However,
There are some issues. It's not a perfect system. And it requires, as so many things do, on human intelligence and the ability that we humans have to separate things.
Right.
Because what we do is, so we have on the table before us a whole bunch of examples of things that can go into the single stream recycling, and a few examples that do not belong. They're in that category we would call contamination.
Yes.
So what I thought we would do today is talk about the things that can go in there and why, talk about some of the common things that end up in there that shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
But to set the stage for that, I was thinking it would be helpful to watch that video
Yes.
from Waste Management. So all of our single stream from the Rio Grande Recycling Center, the recycling that's collected at the landfill, all goes to the Waste Management Franklin Street MRF, Material Recovery Facility, the MRF, and they have produced a video that explains exactly how the system works and what goes in, a little bit about what doesn't go in. So we thought they did such a great job, we'd include that in our show for the moment. So we're going to let you guys watch that, and then we'll come back and talk about some of the details.
Hi, my name is Katie and I work for Waste Management, educating people every day about the importance and benefits of recycling. Here at our local recycling facility in Denver, Colorado, we accept the following: paper and cardboard, aluminum cans, steel and tin cans, glass bottles, and plastic bottles and containers labeled numbers 1 through 7. So you want to remember to look for the triangle symbol on the bottom of the bottle, and if it has a number 1 through 7, it's recyclable. And new to the recycling facility here in Denver, we're also accepting cartons, your milk and juice, both big and small containers. After your materials are placed in the bin and taken out to your curb, they're picked up by a truck that brings those materials to our Materials Recovery Facility, or MRF for short. The first stop for the trucks is to come through our scale house, where they are weighed, and then they take the material over to the tipping floor. From the tipping floor, we scoop the material up and load it onto a series of conveyor belts where it is then sorted and processed. The recycling process is done by a combination of people, technology, and gravity. At this facility, we have over 2.5 miles of conveyor belts. The square footage is just about 85,000 square feet. We operate 5, sometimes 6 days a week, 20 hours a day. Please be aware that there are certain things you should not put into your recycling bin. Some of these things include plastic bags, food and liquids, yard waste, video and cassette tapes, shredded paper, and coffee cups, like the kind that you get at your favorite coffee shop. The first step in the sorting process is to pull out all of the non-recyclable items. We separate out the fibrous material, our paper and cardboard, from the non-fiber materials using screens. We use magnets to separate out tin and steel and an eddy current to sort out our aluminum. We use air to blow out materials like paper and plastics. Our newest technology, called a T-Tech optical sorter, uses a camera to take a shot of materials as they pass along a conveyor belt, and then once identified as the desired material, air jets blow the material into a separate container. Once materials are sorted, they are stored in containers until they are ready to be baled. The materials are baled by type, such as aluminum, metals, and paper. Each of these bales weighs between 1,400 and 1,800 pounds. Bales are then shipped off on train cars to manufacturers who will turn these materials into new materials. Aluminum cans are turned into new aluminum cans and take only 60 days to end up back on the store shelf after being recycled. Plastic bottles get turned into carpet, insulation, and fiber fill, which is used to fill ski jackets and winter coats. Steel and tin are turned into rebar and other materials for construction purposes. Here at our Franklin Street MRF, we process between 500 and 550 tons a day. Across North America, we may process up to 10 million tons every single year. That's enough to fill the Empire State Building 11.4 times. By 2020, Waste Management's sustainability goals would be to process 20 million tons of recycling material every year. So why are we doing all of this anyway? If you recycle, you save energy and natural resources. As an example, if you recycle just one aluminum can, the energy that you save can be used to power your television set for 3 hours. So think green and think waste management.
So 4.5 minutes have passed.
And every time I watch that video, I'm reminded that I'm not an engineer. It is fascinating to me.
And they give tours. If you ever
It
wanted
is
to go,
amazing.
call Waste Management.
Yes, Waste Management. And then there's a similar MRF that some of the recycling in the Roaring Fork Valley goes to called Alpine Waste and Recycling.
Right.
Very similar operation.
Both on the Front Range.
They have videos on YouTube as well. We didn't want to show all the videos, so you could look at that one. But that gives you an idea that we do the hard work of manually separating things, and then we let mostly machinery do it once it gets to the materials reclamation facility.
However,
Big but.
yes, there's a big but, and it's because of...
Cannot lie.
It's a good thing ultimately, although it's a scary thing in the short term.
Yeah.
China handles the majority of the recycling that is produced in the United States. We separate it, we bale it up, we put it on the ships that are going back to China after they have brought us all the electronics that we've consumed or all the clothing that's been manufactured. So the return trip in the past 20, 30 years has been full of recyclables.
Which is good. The
It's
ships are not
fabulous.
going back empty.
They're not going back empty. And China is, or was, very tolerant of that process. But they have decided they don't want to be the dumping ground for the entire world.
Right.
So they have increased their restrictions on the amount of contamination.
National sword.
National sword. That they're going to allow in bales after January the 3rd. So in a couple of weeks, we're going to struggle.
We are, because we are used to sending them loads that have up to 5% of material that doesn't belong. And what that means is you have a bale of this is a #1 plastic. You have
Which
this
is the
big
best
bale of
plastic
it.
you can get.
So easy, well, easy to recycle, the most efficient thing to recycle.
That's what I mean.
But if it's contaminated with this or this soft plastic, then they're going to start rejecting it.
Right, or food residue.
Or food residue.
So the two things that you can do
Yep.
to make this plastic recyclable acceptable for the new Chinese standards, which will improve all of our recycling, is A, to take out any contamination like that. If there happens to be a paper label that you can easily peel off, you should peel it off. And if it's got berry juice or leftover berries or other food residue, you should wipe it out or wash it out.
Absolutely.
So that it doesn't have to be sparkling clean, but it needs to be cleaner than not.
So
and we have had a habit in the past of just
this
throwing the whole thing
recycled,
away.
this thrown away. This plastic,
It's trash.
also trash, thrown away. This plastic, and we've talked about this before.
Right, ad nauseum.
It's
If
so
flimsy,
confusing. It says right here, please recycle. It's got the little arrows on it. And people are like, but it has the little arrows on it. That doesn't mean it's recyclable here in Aspen or in Pickens County.
Or
It
Colorado.
means you could take it
I think you can take it to Indiana. Yeah. If you want.
If anybody's going to Indiana, let me know. We will fill your car with these bags. Unfortunately, I'm going to get a call. Somebody's going to say, I'm going to Indiana. I will take the bags. We actually can put these bags, if you happen to be going down valley, not quite as far as Indiana, not nearly as exciting as Indiana, but closer.
Have you been to Indiana? Elgibel
is more exciting
beautiful
than the whole
compared to
state. That
Indiana.
can't be
Yes.
true. There's got to be something exciting
Well,
in Indiana.
Bloomington's cool, I guess.
See, there you go. There's something. Anyway, these can be put clean and dry, just like this. It needs to be clean and dry into the recycle bins at the Elgibel City Market, the supermarkets down in Glenwood Springs.
Right.
Unfortunately, the 2 city markets in Aspen, as a result of not having a big supply of these, because they're now
Because the bags are banned.
because of the bags
here.
are banned, they don't collect these for recycling. So if you're going to collect them for recycling, they need to be clean, and you can take them down valley.
Right.
Otherwise, in Aspen, they get thrown in the trash. Now, this is an example of a plastic item.
Right.
It is marked with a number 2.
Which is a good plastic.
Pretty good plastic, not as good as a number 1, but still good. It'll still get recycled.
It's like a
However, there's this foil paper
Right.
business on it. What do I do? What?
Well, what I did was leave it on there. In the past, and I think most people did too. However, in the future, when you first open these sorts of bottles, if you'll take that off as much as you can, it will decrease our contamination rate.
That's right. So the plastic needs to go in there. Sans, the liners, sand, no plastic thing, no foil thing.
No foil thing.
Lids.
However, no lids, right?
No,
For
lids can go in there.
Right, but it doesn't say anywhere on this lid that it's recyclable.
It does
and
not.
it has this piece of plastic.
Oh, look at that. That should be
So
taken
I
out.
think that in the future, if it's not truly plastic,
Put the lids,
then
throw
this
them away.
should go. It's better to throw it away than to contaminate your recycling load. The lid
Absolutely.
has something that will not come off. You can call the ibuprofen people and complain, and maybe they'll change their practices. But until that happens, I recommend that this be thrown away.
discard
It is
it.
better to go into the trash and into the landfill than it is to contaminate or participate in the contamination of a huge truckload of
Right. The
mixed
cleaner we
plastics.
send it to them, the cleaner they can send it to
China.
wherever. Well, whether it's China or other American places.
Well, it's not going to my mother's house.
It is.
She is not equipped.
Doesn't make something crafty out of this,
Mary
like
Lou is,
little gingerbread
no.
house thing.
She's
No.
the least crafty person in Kentucky.
So plastic can go in there. We talked about the numbers 1 through 6 can go in there.
Yep.
But you've got another product here which is a little confusing because it's both plastic and paper
And metal or
and a little,
something.
yeah. And so this, people get confused with this product and this product.
Mm-hmm.
This is welcome in the recycling. This, because of the metal lining, throw it away. I'm just
Well,
tossing
that's news
things
from this-
willy-nilly.
That's Tetra Pak. That used to be good.
No, we want anything that's
Okay.
lined with metal. We want in the trash.
Here's your takeaway. Recycling changes.
Yes, it does. We have
So
on the website
we have to adapt
guidelines.
with it.
Your hauler should be giving you guidelines. If you have questions, you can reach out to me at my email, at my phone number. I'm happy to clear this up. It gets confusing. The reason it changes, things like the people that are taking the end product, like China, their rules change. The technology changes.
Yes.
There are things like we saw in that video, those optical sorters, sometimes they advance and they can take things that they didn't used to take, and so they want to increase the things that we can recycle rather than landfill. And then sometimes systems don't work very well and they decide to eliminate things. This is another product that is confusing, the bread bag with
This is
the plastic.
wonderful bread. Packaging, not so great.
Now, are we going to get some free bread now that you're plugging the
I don't know, but
Izio
now that I don't work
brand?
for government, I'd be happy to be on the take. I'm kidding. That's a joke. I'm not on the take. But I had thought that perhaps
If I
this
eat the
portion
bread
was
you get for free,
compostable
am I on the take then?
if you took this off. But Liz instructs that it's all trash because
Yeah.
there is you can see and feel a slight plastic liner here. So that should be wadded up. I'm
And
sure
throw
that
it away.
sounded wonderful. And thrown away into Liz's trash bin. However,
This totally different.
You take it away.
Okay. No, I
Yes.
want you.
No, I
You
mean-
were talking.
Well, first of all, it is great egg noodles. I
Again,
made spaghetti
product
bolognese
placement.
out of these. Delicious. Delicious.
But before we recycle it, which it can go in the single stream,
Right, that little plastic glassine
We wanna
liner
take
needs
this.
to come out because that is contamination.
but this,
This
is
is
welcome.
now perfectly fine to either be recycled or composted.
That's right. There are two options there if you happen to participate there.
When you get these mixed products, they have to be fixed at the source.
Right. It's more important than ever now
and
that
you can do that at home. If you're willing to recycle, then you got to follow along with us. And the reason I brought this in is
Yeah.
I think that in the future these tin cans should have the paper
Oh.
labels taken off.
Oh, okay, that's
And then you
new.
can put the paper. Well, I'm just saying that this will contribute to
the contamination.
contamination. It isn't part of the National Sword Campaign because they're not complaining about metal.
Gotcha.
But contamination is contamination.
Right. Right.
And paper does not become metal. So I would just recommend that if you're composting at home, you just easily tear off that label, put it in your compost if it's paper. And if you're not composting at home, A, shame on you, B, you should. But you can at least throw
Should
it
we
in.
insert a graphic right there? Shame on you for not composting.
Yeah, the bossy, well, call me what you will. But it can be thrown away.
the paper.
But, yes, I just think that in the future, we need to be smarter about how we prepare things for recycling.
Right, because if we can improve the contamination rate, if we can lower the contamination rate, then the consequences economically will not be so dire. And there's a lot of people panicking in the recycling world about this new rule.
They're
in
all freaking out
Yeah.
because, A, China announced this, and we haven't been prepared for it, frankly.
China. Right.
We've had the luxury of 20 or 30 years of just sort of being wasteful and not paying attention
Right.
to things, and that is at an individual level, at a cultural level, and at the business of recycling level too.
And on a cultural level, I would encourage people to choose a reusable mug anytime they're getting a hot drink or cold drink for that matter. This is always better. But sometimes you're on the go, you forgot it, one thing after another happens, you
But
end
it's
up with a
still
coffee
trash.
cup.
And you can try to feel good about yourself by putting it in the recycling, but
It's not recyclable.
It's not.
This is such a point of confusion for people because we just talked about a product like this, which is a combination of paper and plastic, and so it seems like these are the same, but they're not. This is layers of paper and plastic and paper and plastic. This is a single layer of paper and plastic, and therefore it cannot be recycled at this time.
yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
No, and it belongs in the trash. The other
I wish it
thing
made sense.
that bothers me is if I put a hot drink in this cup, some of that plastic is going to end up in my hot drink.
And then it'll end
I'm
up in
not
your
comfortable with
gut.
that. Yeah,
And then
I'd rather.
you'll wonder why you're in the hospital.
So
That's called
No,
a leap of logic.
that is a logical fallacy that I do not think my philosophy teacher would have passed us for.
Well, I took
in
introduction to logic too,
college.
and that's why I chose to use it.
Well, I'm afraid that
No.
yes, it is getting along
Oh
that
my
time,
God, I feel like
Jack.
we should sing.
I know. Well, we could get my watch to sing. No, I think that would
Sure.
drive our grassroots people a little crazy. So, what I do want to do before we go away, because this is your first time back,
Right.
I just want to revisit Aspen Zero Impact. Contact information below, Jack Johnson at aspenzeroimpact.org. And I know that you are still working
Right.
with people like me, helping people recycle and compost, but you're also looking to the future to do some other things.
I think that it's important for us to be taking the next steps.
Yeah.
One of the projects that I'm working on is to bring an e-waste, meaning electronics waste recycling.
Oh, such a huge need for that.
Component to the valley, and not only provide a place to people to bring their electronics waste to and pay a fee.
But it would be a year round.
It would be year round.
Oh.
It would be open, a lot more than the landfill is. But it would also employ the developmentally disabled.
Oh my gosh.
People on the autistic spectrum have a facility for deconstructing electronics,
Yes.
and we hope to be able to start a nonprofit to employ them to do that, and it's a win-win-win, has a social, an economic, and an environmental
That's
deliverable,
fantastic.
and we hope to be having that soon.
Oh, that would be wonderful. And so that's one of the things if someone's interested in getting
Right,
involved.
and that's beyond the realm of government at this time. To
Right.
be able to take on, your staff is limited.
Right. Right. We have reached out to the organization, various organizations in the state, try to get something going, and we really need your organization to fill that gap between the desire and the support we
Yes.
have and making it
Yes.
be a reality. So
Desire's not enough, unfortunately.
no,
or we'd be
it
done.
takes actual labor.
And then the other project that I'm working on is a way to create a program to divert construction and demolition debris
We gotta have a whole
from
show
the
on that.
tear downs in Aspen and Pickens County and the rest of the valley. It is 80% of the material that goes into our landfill, and that it is the material which has caused the landfill to lose so much of its life. And that's really important to me and to us. It's important to the environmental community. The thing is, folks, if the landfill closes because it's glutted with construction and demolition debris, all of our materials from our homes and that construction material and from our businesses, we're going to have to find some landfill west of here to take it to. I think that we could do away with all of the gains we've made in reducing greenhouse gases in Aspen through the projects that we've been working on for the past 10 or 15 years, simply by the number of trucks that are going to be taking that material not 9 miles outside of town, but 40, 80, 100 miles away for disposal. The thing is that Jackson Hole, a very similarly situated community, when their landfill closed, they had to find a landfill. The closest one to take their waste was 100 miles away. That's 100 miles full of trash one way and empty coming back, and they saw that their trash bills increased by threefold.
So part of what folks could do is recycle, compost. Stay tuned for more Talkin' Trashy. Jack and I will be back with more things you can do locally to extend the life of the landfill. Hopefully we won't be in the situation of Jackson Hole. We're trying to get ahead of that now while we still have a chance.
But we need your help.
Yeah, we sure do. So contact me, Liz Chapman at the City of Aspen, Jack Johnson at aspenzeroimpact.org, and we'll see you next time on Talkin' Trashy.
Well, you've been making your brags around town that you've been a lover, my man. But the man I love when he picks up trash, he puts it in a garbage can.